Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Breaking Career Barriers by Leading with Spice. My name is Shayla Atkins, and I am elated to have you here today. Come on in and join me to learn how to break career barriers by leading with Spice, being authentic, being strategic, and intentional in the work that you do. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Let's dive right on in. We're not going to waste any time. So, what if I told you that the leadership playbook we're using was created 96 years ago? Now, some of you, depending on your experience, your expertise, and education, may say, perfect. We have a proven model, it has stood the test of time, and we can rely on it. Others may say, why in the world are we using a nearly 100-year-old playbook to lead our teams into the future? Why am I trying to conform and fit into a model that was created 100 years ago? And I want you to pause and ask yourself, what did the workforce look like 96 years ago? Was it designed with you in mind? And should we still use a 96-year-old playbook to advance our careers and lead our teams? And we're going to talk about that and how to break those barriers and lead with spice. But for those of you who love data, like myself, I am a data nerd. I love it. Under these current leadership standards, these 96-year-old standards, this is what the leadership looks like. So you can look back over 2017 and look at 2022. And what do you notice? Women are very prevalent at entry level, and that's okay with managers, but you go up to the C-suite, and what do you notice? It severely drops off. Also, what you should also know under these current standards is that poor leadership practices are costing US companies $630 billion. That's a B, not an M. Due to low productivity, decreased engagement, and high turnover. Every time an employee leaves, on average, it costs $80,000 to replace that employee. And hiring costs, having other people fill in and do the job, you've now reduced the productivity. This is why I'm here. One, to transform the leadership landscape, but to help you transform it by breaking barriers. A little bit about me. My name is Shayla Atkins. The top part is what matters for me personally. I am married, my high school sweetheart, mom of twin girls. Please pray for me. Love anything chocolate, like literally anything. Believe it or not, I am naturally introverted, right? So I'll share a little bit about my experience going from the production floor all the way to global senior leadership. And I'll probably will take a nap after this. And professionally, I am the founder and CEO of the Atkins Impact Consulting Firm. I'm a prior corporate executive, global senior leadership at Fortune 500 companies. I've won awards for global DEI strategy, leadership, authenticity expert. I am a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. I mentioned I love data. And I believe authenticity is the catalyst to well-being and belonging. I believe once that we are aligned on our core values and we live, operate, and lead that way, that is how we truly break barriers. And so back to that playbook where career progression and leadership have been defined in a world that no longer exists. We've had a pandemic. There's no playbook for that. The Great Resignation, there is no precedent for that. Leadership advancement. It is time to rewrite the playbook, redefine leadership, and lead with spice. Now, these two numbers, you may wonder, what do they mean? And I'll give you this. On average, Women in the workplace suppress up to 65% of themselves. There's some aspect that they're hiding. Culture, identity, ideas, spouse, beliefs, music, clothing, colors, you name it, hair, our tone of voice. And for women of color, that number skyrockets to 90%. 90%. Imagine what you can do and what you can accomplish with 90% more energy and brain power. Just think about that. What would you be able to do? How would your organization change? How would your life change with 90% more energy and brain power? I know I can keep up with my kids because these two 7-year-olds, they run me. Okay. Let me know. What would you be able to do? I want to tell you a story. Every time this picture comes up, I cringe. I'm like, oh, but I want to tell you my journey to 90%. Yes, I was a part of the 90%. In this picture, I thought I had it all together. I'm climbing the corporate ladder. I'm an executive, but on the inside, I was crumbling. And the genesis of that journey all came a long time ago. I'm not going to age myself. Okay, maybe about 20 years ago, early in my career. I had a big meeting. I was so excited. And I was meeting with my plant VP. I worked in manufacturing. And I knew this was going to be to talk about my promotion. I deliver results. I saved the company millions of dollars. I made sure I was ready. I had my numbers. I can articulate my value. I was ready. I go into the meeting and I sit down and he says, Shayla, we love you here. You are reliable. You're dependent, consistent. You deliver results. You impact the bottom line. There's just one thing. You don't have the intangibles. The intangibles. Now, 20 years ago, I'll just say this. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a personal board of directors. I didn't have the arsenal and the toolbox to equip me to navigate that conversation. Instead, that conversation became the catalyst for 10 years of conforming, code switching, and covering so I can have the intangibles. I began to straighten my hair, not out of preference, but out of necessity. I changed my voice, not because I wanted to amplify it, because I needed to, so I didn't sound like the angry Black woman. I started to wear dark color clothing. I didn't want to draw too much attention to myself. I started to overcompensate and prove that I belong in the room, only to find myself frustrated, plateaued, exhausted, and hospitalized due to burnout and exhaustion. I look like I had it all together. But in fact, there was something missing. Besides me, I was missing. And there was one thing that plateaued my performance besides living the facade. You see, there's this misconception about authenticity, that it's about how real you can be. Authenticity is alignment. Are you aligned to your core values and beliefs? Now, the young kids call it standing on business. Someone asks you, are you standing on business, or do your beliefs, values, aspirations waver depending on the room that you're in? And so because I was wavering, I was waffling. I covered, I conformed, depending on the room I was in. I could sway with the wind. You know what was missing besides me? Trust. You see, when you're not aligned and don't have a personal brand with core values and beliefs that you stand on, as the kids say, you can't really trust it. It's inconsistent. You're asking me to put my trust in you as a leader to lead an entire organization when I have no idea what you stand for. Now, I'm not going to condone that conversation that occurred about the intangibles because that journey, I had to go on that journey to learn to find myself. I had to go on that journey of covering and code switches to learn what not to do. I don't recommend it. Covering and code switching and conforming. It is not a sustainable career strategy. I give it 0 stars. Do not recommend. Yelp reviews, -5. Please don't try it. The facade fades. Your performance starts to waver. It starts to become a roller coaster. And when I was doing that, what I found is that I was a hidden figure. I was behind the scenes trying to climb the ladder. I plateaued. I showed up. Well, let me say this. My representative showed up. How many of you are sitting your representative and you're wondering why your performance is wavering? I was sending my representative to work, not the person who was educated, creative, strategic, a thought leader, intentional. I sent the representative. So I ask you, are you a hidden figure? You can't break career barriers sending your representative. Now, being a hidden figure is not all that uncommon. It happens. It impacts organizations. Employees not feeling valued by the organization, 54%. 51% employees not feeling valued by their manager. And employers have a 5-year turnover cost due to lack of belonging, $253 billion. Why? Because they are enforcing outdated, rigid leadership and career advancement strategies and principles from 96 years ago, creating hidden figures. Who knew? But how does being a hidden figure impact you? We've talked about the organizational impact, but how does it impact you? Every time you deny yourself, change who you are, your brain registers it as a trauma. And the trauma response is stress. It is increased cortisol. It is stress. It is burnout. It is exhaustion. Every time you are not in alignment with your core values and beliefs, and that you feel that you need to hide your heritage, identity, ideas, your tone of voice, your colors, the true essence of what makes you unique. It is a trauma response. Our cortisol levels are elevated, and it is stress. It is illness. It is disease. It impacts our overall well-being. I experienced it firsthand. Hospitalization due to exhaustion and stress. And it wasn't until after giving birth to my children that I had to face a reckoning. I had to look myself in the mirror, that I was whispering these sweet nothings in their ear and telling them to be bold and take over the world, that I realized I was a hypocrite and I had no idea who I was. Waking up and choosing authenticity daily, it is the hardest thing to do. Why? Because it requires you to be distinct. It requires you to be an individual. Be human. It requires you to be aligned to your core beliefs, that every room that you enter, you are aligned, even if the answer is no. Sometimes we avoid hearing no, so we waver. And last, it requires you to be consistent. Remember, I talked about that trust being missing. I had a mentor tell me when I came in fact, he was my sponsor. And when I came back from maternity leave, I was out for a while. I showed up at the board meeting. My hair was cut. I asked for my money. I wasn't trying to overcompensate. I asked for the $10 million for the talent acquisition strategy. I was very clear. I was very concise. I was very confident in what it is that I needed in order for the organization to succeed. He said, "There she is." And I went, "What?" He said, "There she is." Matter of fact, 3 board members said, "There she is. We've been waiting on her to show up." And my sponsor pulled me to the side and said, "Now I trust you to lead that organization, to lead that function. Because now I know what you stand for. I now know what your values are. I know what impact you want to make on the organization. And I can now trust you." When climbing that corporate ladder, it's not about whether or not you agree, it's whether or not you can respect and trust the personal brand. It is time to disrupt status quo, stand out, and get noticed with that authentic personal brand. That is how you break career barriers. See, I thought I had to be the team player, the go with the flow, but in fact, it was the leader, the individual, the disruptor that propelled my career to global senior leadership. Now, do you think authenticity and effectiveness can coexist in today's landscape? Absolutely, it can. And I want to tell you something. I'm going to get into S.P.I.C.E. But first, one of the things that I had to recognize as I started to make that transition from early, middle to senior leadership, I had to stop solely focusing on performance, especially as a woman, as a Black woman. Listen, we are smart. We are problem solvers. We get the job done. Matter of fact, we are the most educated beings on this planet, yet the least paid. Now, we'll talk about those systemic barriers on another time. I want to talk about this. The Pi career and growth model, or the Pi success model, founded by Harvey Coleman. It's a phenomenal model. I love it. It's great. It says that performance is only 10% of the puzzle. That 10% is where we put all of our eggs in a basket. And that 30% is image and 60% is exposure. That is the key to success and career growth. We focus so much on performance to the point of burnout and exhaustion. And we are frustrated that we're not seeing the acceleration that we desire. There's one challenge with the Pi model. It assumes there's a level playing field. It assumes all things equal. It doesn't take into account cultural nuances, cultural upbringings, and traditions and heritage. See, I was taught that when you go to work, you do a good job, you keep your head down, you'll get noticed, your work will speak for itself. You don't make friends, you keep your personal life separate, don't go to the networking happy hour, and do a good job, and they'll pay you and they'll reward you. False. See, the Pi model assumes that you're taught networking, that you're taught strategic relationships, and that you understand business acumen and business savvy. It assumes a level playing field, that there are no inequities and no inconsistencies. And so what I've done over years of research, years of experience in studying, is modernize the model. And it is time to break barriers by leading with S.P.I.C.E. It takes into account gender and cultural nuances and differences and the lived experience that we all have. First and foremost, savvy. This is your business acumen and savvy. Remember, you are an expert in your function, but I want to ask you, do you know how your company makes or saves money? Have you reviewed 10K reports? Have you listened to analyst days, sustainability reports? Do you know where your company is investing dollars? Do you understand market trends? You have to increase your business acumen in addition to your talents. That is how you amplify the impact you have on your organization. And it creates leverage. Now, when you understand your talent, your expertise, your business acumen, you have impact, you have leverage. You know your value. This is not about knowing your worth. That's subjective. You know the value that you deliver. So you now have leverage. And one thing to know about me is I love quotes. I'll be sharing some quotes. I firmly believe success lies in the combination of both talent and business savvy, and that the magic comes through the partnership of both. The CEO, Christian Dior. And then when you're able to move into performance, this isn't just performing. We do that well. We're high achievers. We're high contributors. This is about intentional performance. This is about curating your career and breaking those barriers. So now that you know how your company makes or save money, you understand the risk and the market trends. You now select roles with organizational impact. You select roles that are aligned with your strengths. You select roles where you know that you can contribute and that you have leverage. You move away from overperforming, from overworking to overperforming. And it took me a long time to recognize the difference between the two. Overworking is, yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll take on that extra work. Yes, I'll take it, whether I want to or not. But I need to show, I need to prove myself. I need to take on extra work. I'm up for a promotion. Overperforming is, tell me more about this opportunity. Is it strategic? How does this extra opportunity impact the bottom line? And you assess and intentionally you say, yes, I'll take that on so that you can overperform, over deliver on results that matter, not overwork. We know you can multitask. That's not what you're there to prove. We prove that you can over deliver. And then when you move into image, this is your authentic leadership identity and personal brand. What is it that you want to be known for? Remember that personal brand drives trust and it boosts your credibility. Identify what makes you distinctive and cultivate a personal brand around that. I've seen too often resumes, performance reviews to where we try to blend in. We're trying to fit in the middle, the talented bunch. What makes you stand out? What makes you seen? What makes you visible? What reputation do you have? What are your values? Control your narrative. Your personal brand helps you do that. That's exactly what it's there for. It's an individual identity. It's your platform. It's how you're being distinctive, this image, this poise. Does it accurately reflect who you are in your career boundaries and non-negotiables? If you cannot be who you are, where you are, change where you are, not who you are. Carolyn Wanga, the CEO of Essence Ventures, absolutely love this quote. We have to cultivate authentic brands to find fulfilling, rewarding, and profitable careers that are aligned with us. We have to change where we are, not who we are. When we change who we are, we cannot be the leaders of innovation. We cannot be change agents. We cannot be the over deliverers. We're too busy second guessing ourselves, wondering if we said the right word, struggling with perfection, imposter syndrome. She has moved in and just made herself comfortable on the couch. She has to go. Then we move into communication. You have this personal brand, this reputation. You're making strategic career selection. You're curating your career. Now it's time for communication that is compelling, influential, and you advocate for yourself. Casting a compelling vision for your career and clearly articulating your value. I'll tell you, there was this point of time to where in my performance reviews, they were long. Yeah, they were dissertations. They were an entire thesis. You know why? Because I had to list all of the extra work I did. I had to list all of the tasks. And one day my leader said, "You did a lot of work. Wow. But did you accomplish the goal?" I don't know. I just know all the work I done and I want a raise for it. Wait, you did all this work, but did you accomplish the goal at hand? I don't know. I should have. I was busy. I've been busy all year. I should have accomplished the goal, right? No. Again, I did not know how to articulate the value. I was articulating my ability to multitask. Once you understand your leverage and how you make or save your company money, you select strategic roles, you have a personal brand that demands credibility and respect. You clearly advocate for yourself with that leverage and articulate the value that you deliver. And then lastly, you can move into exposure. This is visibility and relationship building. It's a double entendre. I'm going to tell you. As a natural introvert, I struggle with this the most. It's the key, it's the missing link. I struggle with it the most, which means that we need to expose ourselves just a little bit. Let your guard down just a little bit, but also build meaningful strategic relationships. Intentionally expose yourself to the right people at the right time. This does not mean oversharing, but this does mean that you cannot climb that ladder alone, that you cannot break those barriers alone. Do you have the sponsors? We get mentors, but do you have the sponsors and the champions who sit at the table and are speaking your name when you're not in the room, who are advocating for you, who understands and knows your personal brand, your career aspirations, and your career non-negotiables, and they can advocate on your behalf? Have you built your personal board of directors? Exposure elevates your leadership trajectory. It's not the performance alone. Your performance is just the entry ticket. Your exposure and relationships puts you with a seat and a voice at the table. And so as I became more authentic and aligned, my leadership trajectory soared. I moved from that person who was plateaued at middle management. I came in and was very clear, as you can see, with the hair and the colors and who I was, my values, the impact, the legacy I wanted to leave for the organization and myself. I was very clear. I want this role to make this impact in the next 3 to 5 years. How can you help me get there? Those are the difficult conversations, the clear, concise, compelling conversations we need to have to break career barriers. And so now when we think of this holistically in totality, the SPICE model looks like this. Exposure is still the key. But now we have to understand our savvy and our communication. And then our personal brand. It is anchored in that personal brand. The personal brand enters the room long before you ever do. Final quote by yours truly. If assimilation is the prerequisite to inclusion and belonging, organizations will never unlock the power of human potential. You will never unlock the power of your potential if you are simulating as the prerequisite. How would authenticity and effectiveness impact your career today? Where would you be? What would be the impact on your organization's leadership pipeline? Will your leaders be more effective because they're authentic and aligned, more inclusive? Think about that individual and organizational impact. So I invite you to connect with me, to connect and follow me on LinkedIn. Subscribe to the Culture Compass newsletter. It's a bi-weekly newsletter where I share ways to transform your workplace culture and to transform your leadership career and journey. Scan that QR code and follow me on LinkedIn today. Also, visit the website www.theatkinsimpact.com to learn more about what we do and how we partner with leaders and organizations. That is www.theatkinsimpact.com to learn more about how we can develop future-ready leadership pipelines. We can develop women in leadership, executive coaching, and workplace cultural transformations that deliver results for the business and where everyone can thrive. I am always open to feedback, and I also would like to give you a free Lead with Spice Executive Presence Guide. No strings attached. Scan the QR code. Just fill out a couple of questions. Give me feedback on this talk. Let me know how this helped you. Did it help you? Did it benefit you? And also, you'll get that free guide as well that around helping you create this authentic executive presence and a personal brand. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed spending time with you here today. It is now time for you to go break barriers by leading with Spice. Thank you.